you've got a big symposium coming up for this center.
Tanya Bennett, who is at University of North Georgia, will be speaking. She has an edited collection coming out on Lillian Smith.
Oh, great.
I think it's with UGA Press, if I remember correctly. Patricia Bell Scott, who has a book on Polly Murray and her relationship with Eleanor Roosevelt, will be speaking. But she'll be talking about, of course, Polly Murray and Lillian Smith's mentorship of Polly Murray. A couple of her poems, or one of her poems, is in South Today from 44 and 45. Emily Pierce, who was actually a Lillian Smith scholar at Piedmont. There's a Lillian Smith scholar program we have at Piedmont, which is a social justice program. One of the first graduates will be speaking about that program. Ben Rowton will be speaking about citizenship in his new book. And then Hal Jacobs, who is an Atlanta filmmaker, will be showing the documentary Lillian Smith Breaking the Silence, and then we'll also be talking about the documentary. So it'll be a full day of events. The $25 covers breakfast and lunch.
That's
and
great.
Things like that.
And so this documentary will soon be made public?
Yeah, I think next year. There are screenings all over, everywhere. If you go to lilliansmithdoc.com, you'll see them. It has a couple of screenings in Washington at George Washington University, has one at Opelika, other places as well. Jasper, Florida, we have one coming up.
And while I'm so glad that Piedmont College has taken over this, and really you guys are working hard to make it important within our state's history again. Because again, I grew up, I've been here my whole life and had not heard about her until adulthood. Do you have any bigger ideas as to what you see the center doing and trying to just get her message out?
Well, I think the documentary is doing a good job of that, for one. Right now it is an artist residency, so people can come and pay to stay at the center and work on whatever. Could be. We have a resident coming up working on ambient music, basically, to record nature sounds. We have people coming up working on artwork.
I might come up soon because, I mean, it is beautiful here and it's gorgeous.
And the goals moving forward are to open up to educational opportunities, to have teachers come up here, connect with the local education communities in Raven County and Habersham County and the counties in between, to connect with university teachers, to kind of inform them about it, to inform students in the area about it, to inform the community, just through different ways. And there's a lot that's going on. There's even a guy in Clayton who does shrubs. He's a bartender, and he has one named after Lillian Smith. Yeah. So
got to keep people alive in pop culture and things like that. It's so important. So tell me about your newest book that I think you just got under contract, and it's on Black Panther, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah. That's a total different thing than Lillian Smith, of course, but there's a lot of similarities. So I'm looking at Christopher Priest's Black Panther, who a lot of people say is the seminal run from about 1998 to about 2003, I think is what it was. If you've seen the Black Panther film, some of the things from his run come in there, the Dora Milaje and other things. A lot of the things in the film come from Don McGregor and Jungle Action. But looking at that and looking at the ways Priest kind of uses that, speaks back to kind of the publication history, and is also speaking to kind of broader issues that Chestnut, that Yerby, that Smith are talking to. What's really interesting about his run is he uses a white narrator to narrate the story. It's not T'Challa narrating it. It's a white government guy who's basically racist, if you look at it. And he kind of evolves and changes over the series. So it's a lot of this commentary. And Priest basically said, at certain points, I don't want this to be a race book. I want to do this. But he's dealing with all these issues of identity and race and whiteness and all these types of things that all these other authors are dealing with, just in a comic and visual medium with the artist that he's working with.
You definitely see a narrative weave through all of those different writers. That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for everything. Thank you for your time today. I do want to leave our listeners, our watchers, with a little bit about your work with AAIHS and Black Perspectives, because that's the venue I actually started writing for before I got to writing, article level things. I was blogging for AAIHS. It was an amazing, transformative experience for me, and they do try to keep, most of their writers are writers of color. I felt incredibly honored to be one of the few white writers there. You're one of the few white writers there now. What has that relationship been for you? What has that done for you?
Just reading the pieces that are published there opened my eyes to a lot of different things. Like the one recently about the Magnum ice cream ad, the one about the history of police dogs, which I shared today, of course.
Tyler Perry.
Right, Tyler Perry's article, the book reviews, all of these types of things, add to my knowledge and add to my understanding. I think that relationship, what it's done for me is it's given me a venue to work through things that I'm working through, to share my research, of course, too. But it's also connected me with so many people. I initially started writing there, I think, if I remember correctly, I wrote a piece for Julian Chambliss and Walter Grierson's comics panel on Luke Cage. And it's really what got me started in comics, too. Because I read comics as a kid, but over the past few years, I started reading more and diving more into it. And then with Black Panther coming out, I started diving more into it. So I did a couple of posts. I did a post for theirs, and then I did a couple of more. And they asked me to come on. So doing that and connecting with people like that, with Deborah Whaley, who I interviewed for her book, I forgot the name of it, but on African-American women comics artists and comics characters. So the connections, reading the stuff that the roundtables about masterless men, things like that.
It really is a fantastic education for all Americans, but specifically one that white people need. And I'm so grateful for everything they do.
And we have a roundtable. I was working with Sheena Howard. That's coming up. It's in the process right now on Milestone Comics. Milestone Comics was the first big black-owned comics company with Dwayne McDuffie, Dennis Cowan, a couple of other people. Came out in 93, ran through about 97. It was its own company, but DC DC kind of distributed it a little bit too. But it focused on multicultural characters and focused representation, which is something I'm interested in with comics specifically, and with Priest Black Panther representation. Because the other thing about Christopher Priest, he was the first black writer to write Black Panther 30 years after he initially appeared. And he was the first black editor, one of the big two at Marvel in the early 80s. He wrote some Luke Cage, some Power Man, and Iron Fist too. But anyways, so Milestone is that. If you've ever seen the Static cartoon, Static was a character from Milestone, Icon, Hardware. And the multiplicity and the diversity within these, Icon is really, really interesting and powerful because it is sort of a riff on Superman, but not necessarily. So Icon is a black lawyer, conservative black lawyer, who basically, he's an alien, came to Earth in the antebellum period, crashed in the field, actually scans the DNA of the person who finds him. It's an enslaved woman, so he's black. And he's lived on Earth since the mid-1800s, basically. And 1993, he's a black conservative lawyer. He meets Raquel Irvin, who they're trying to rob his house. She wants to be the next Toni Morrison. She wants to be the next writer. She's a teenager. She comes up with the idea after the robbery fails and they find out he's superhuman, basically, or he's alien and all these things, for him to be a superhero and to fight for people. It's basically her story and her narrative, if you look at it, even though it's called Icon. But she's 15, black, pregnant, and a superhero. So it's all these things. They have a Blood Syndicate, which was a multicultural gang, basically, who had internal problems. One of the characters was transgender, one was gay, one was addicted to drugs. So one was Latino. So all these different kind of things. They have an Asian American character. So they're doing all these things in that period, dealing with representation and battling representation in the comics medium.
Right.
So that roundtable is coming up at AIHS soon.
Oh, great. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for allowing me to see this beautiful center. Definitely going to be trying to come up here for the writer's residence soon. But I hope everything goes well, and we need to get the word out about this Lillian Smith Center here at Piedmont College. Thank you, Matthew Teutsch.
Thank you.